Welcome to the first episode of the Media Intelligence Podcast Explained, the first one after the FIBEP World Media Congress in Singapore. I'm Vlado Petkov, CEO of Identrics and half of the hosts of this podcast. Together with me is, of course, Alicja Bors from Ruepoint. Hi, Alicja.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? How's the trip for you?
Oh, I have a lot to talk about, but it's not the time. But if you can share a beer, I can tell you all about my US custom experience, but that's for a later time. And together with us, we have an exciting guest.
Absolutely. And by the way, we can share a lot of insights of what happened in Singapore. But one of the great things that happened to us is that many people approached us and said, okay, you're doing this. The podcast is great. And we would like to say thank you for all these amazing feedback. And one of these people was Resti, and Resti talked to us and he said, hey guys, Maria has this great book, which is in a way dedicated to our industry. Is it interesting for you to interview her in the podcast? And we, with Alicja, we said, yes, of course. And that's why we're here with Laura Maria Gonzalez from Global News. Thank you, Maria, for agreeing to talk to us. How are you? What's the weather? The weather looks amazing in.
Yeah, it's summertime. Well, it's still spring, but feels like summer. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Where are you right now? Where do we catch you?
I am in the garden and close to the swimming pool. And after the podcast, I will swim a little bit because
Please
I
stop.
love swimming.
Have mercy. Me and Alicja, we're in Europe, and I complained that it's like 10 degrees in Sofia, and Alicja said 1 degree. And I said, okay. In Poland, way worse. Okay, we are together to discuss your book, not the weather in Europe or in the Americas. Before going to the book and before starting this conversation, please do tell us about the company that you founded, the business. Share some of your experience with for FIBEP.
Let me explain a little bit how it started and give some context. It was in the 90s, and Latin America, and especially my country, Argentina, opened up to the world and to the globalization process. And this opening began the process of creating trade agreements such as Mercosur. At that time, I was in charge of communications with the international media from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where I was working. Simultaneously, to keep all in context, the internet was growing in popularity. And I was at a conference in Las Vegas that I heard Bill Gates explaining how the internet would impact information. I said, this is for me. And I understood that information in the new digital scenario will be both an opportunity because of the changes taking place. We're breaking down the barriers like logistic and access to the content like format, and at the same time will be a problem because of those barriers fell. They open the floodgates to a volume of information impossible for any individual to absorb or analyze. Okay, so I said, considering all this, I decided to create Global News Group. But let me explain a little bit. I was a young woman, just recently divorced with 3 kids, mother of 3, and with no money and no resources. But I had a vision, and I decided to do it in any way, in any possible way. So you may ask why the name Global News? Because it refers to accessing the world's information for Latin America and bringing that information from Latin America to the other regions. It is not to approach all the information in terms of being the global monitoring. It was to offer our information to other regions and to be the main source for this region and to offer international information to our region. Let me explain why. Because as I was working in the Foreign Affairs office, I suffer a lot with one of the barriers, the logistic. Because, for example, just to explain, Financial Times, to came here to my country, it took minimum 48 hours. The newspaper, the physical newspapers, we receive it 48 or even 72 hours later. So imagine how difficult it was for us. It was the analogic times. No, not the digital, not even media digitalized. That was for me, I saw an opportunity there. And I started as a regional company, even though I had no resources, because I created a correspondent system, a system of correspondence in every country. I knew a lot of people in every country because of, as a journalist, I was working in communications, international communications, so I knew a lot of people, so I offered to them to be correspondents in every country. So I started as a regional company, even though I had no offices. But well, then it was a long trip, as I say. It was difficult because I was a woman. There were no women in that stage, in the digital changing world and in media, even in media. So it was difficult for me. So I said before, I'm very formal because I needed to be really formal as a woman. Let me tell you just a short story. It was the end of the 90s. My company was growing. I started opening offices and also buying new others to be stronger. And it was a fund from New York that called me and invited me to go there because they were trying to invest in companies like mine in the region. And I was the only woman. We were 10 people there in New York, and we need to do a pitch. My pitch, I thought it was good, but they do not choose me. I was not elected. But then they call me and they say, we want to talk with you, Laura. And I said, okay, I'm ready for whatever you wanted. And they say, look, we wanted to say that your pitch was the best one. And so I asked, why do you don't choose me? And they say, because you are a woman. And I said, I love to be woman. Which is the problem? And they said, well, as a woman, you need to show us that you came to stay. And I understood the message. And maybe this today wouldn't be an issue, but it was more than 20 years ago. And when I came back, I said to myself, I will not ask for money. I was not asking. They called to me, but I said, I will try to develop my company by myself, not asking for money, and try to grow with my own money, with my results, with my revenue. And it was like that. Okay.
So it's actually turned for the better that you stayed on your own.
Yeah, well, that make me, there is another side I have. I work on women leadership, and that is why I start working on women leadership, because I said this is not fair. But it was the first time in my life I realized that, because I belong to a family we are 5 kids. I am the only girl. Four kids, 4 boys, and I never had a problem with that. Well, I realized it was a problem, especially in some industries.
I think it's still a problem in some industries. I was on a meeting recently, and it was a meeting with an IT company, and there was 12 people in the room, and I was the only woman there. So we are still have a lot to do, but I think what you've already done is very admirable, and thank you for that. And also, you were FIBEP president for 2018, right? To 2021. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, but before this, let me explain something. After all these years, my company grew to become the biggest in the region. We have a system of own offices, companies in 10 countries, and representatives in all the rest of the region. So we are the biggest and the unique that is in all these countries. But some years ago, I decided to step down on the day-by-day on the managing, and it's Carlos Diaz who is leading the company today. I am happy with that. I'm happy because he's good. The team is really good, and I'm still there owning the company. But I am happy because sometimes you need to understand that there is time for other opportunities, because I think in some way my vision, I still have the vision, but they have more capabilities to the new challenges than I have. So this is the second time for our company to grow in the new era of artificial intelligence or new technologies. And I understand it is for younger people than for me. That's it. You said, okay, FIBEP presidency. I was focused on 3 levels in my work. One I am always obsessed with is governance, so that the operation is transparent and in accordance to the rules. At the same time, I was seeking to give greater dynamics to the board, so I create portfolios with vice presidents to have a more active and focused board. And finally, I start analyzing the environment to connect with the world through the media intelligence business ecosystem that must allow us not only to understand where the risks for our industry are, but also where we have relationship gaps that we must address, or even where we can discover new agreements or members.
And FIBEP is still working on that, developing the ecosystem.
Yeah, the idea is this is something dynamic. This is something that is changing all the time. The idea is to just the diagnosis, just to think in it, to analyze it, let you to have a different vision on the industry. So this is a tool that I created for the industry to help us to have a different approach in a world that is exponentially changing all the time, continuously.
Speaking of change, your presidency was during the pandemic. So that was gigantic change for everyone in the world. But for the FIBEP association, it also was a big change, because we were used to meeting a couple times a year on site and, having all this time when we could network and all that. So how did you approach this challenge? How to keep people connected and engaged during pandemic?
Well, it was a real challenge, not only for FIBEP, also for me, because I am very physical person. We Latin people is well known as we hug people. We want to be in person, but we face this challenge with digital tools, and members reacted really positively. And even with digital networking, we did digital networking meetings and 2 annual congresses in digital format. So I'm happy with the process, even though it was difficult for all of us. But at the same time, I think that we, as an industry that work with digital in the digital world, we really, really act positively with this situation.
I spoke with some people before our call that remembered your presidency, because I came to FIBEP after you already left, not the organization, but the presidency, and Thomas became the new president. So I haven't had a chance to. So I was like, okay, I will just ask people who remember and what was their feeling about it. And they say that you brought a new, this very highly driven energy that, but of course you are also very, spontaneous, and which probably comes with the fact that you're Argentinian. And that there was a great female energy all around, and people were very engaged, and they have very much respect for you and for your work, of course, on the media ecosystem, and the fact that you created the sub-commissions, and you can see that the work is actually being done at FIBEP. So yeah, I think you did a great job, and everyone could tell you that.
Thank you.
But we met today because actually you wrote a book. So maybe let's just jump to the book. I would like you to know that I read it. I also have, all these bookmarks here. So that's a proof that I did. And I actually did.
100 markers?
No, not 100, but there are some.
There are like
Yes,
30.
I marked some things that might be useful for the podcast. I also marked some things that I would like to study further. Yeah, so this book is called Our Digital Challenge: Informing, Thinking, and Free Deciding in the Cyber Era. This is the English translation because from what I know, it was written in Spanish, right? And yeah, so tell us more about this book. So what's the idea behind it?
Well, I have experienced firsthand the profound transformation of the world of information. As I told you, when I started, it was just when it was growing the popularity of the internet. And one of the biggest concerns is that we consume information without quality and safety controls. If we consider that the information we consume shapes our beliefs, the consequences that we are facing everywhere are impacting the democratic processes in our society, such as radicalization, echo chambers, intolerance, hate speech, new and growing conspiracy theories, violence, and manipulation of beliefs and emotional reaction to digital stimuli. So I wrote this book after reading more than 100 books related with this issue, and all these books were mostly academic and not for everybody. But I think we all need to have this knowledge and develop what is today called digital and information literacy. Does not mean how to use technically the digital tools. It means how to develop the abilities we need to be in control of our behavior and the digital tools, and not the contrary. So regarding the information literacy, I work in how to control our information menus. And all my experience was really interesting to match with all these. So the book is for everybody. It's very simple, written easily reading, not complicated, not academic. And what I want is to help people to be in control of the information they consume and to understand the new rules that are changing all the time, the new rules in the digital life, and the game we are playing.
I can confirm that it's a very easy read. I took it with me on a plane, and I think I finished like an hour and a half. So it was, so it was a good read. It's very nice. That's a book that I think I would like to give, for example, to someone who is not that informed, because we are from the media intelligence world, so we kind of know how the things work. But there are, of course, some things that were interesting for me also. But for example, someone like my parents who are maybe not thinking that much or why they are receiving certain information when they are scrolling through Facebooks, for example. I really like also that you included the whole chapter about biases, because I was a psychology student, so biases are I have a whole exam on biases, so I'm very familiar with the topic, but I don't think that's something that everyone knows. And just the fact to be able to recognize why are you perceiving an information in a certain way is a good thing to, then interpret it. Okay, why I'm receiving it? How does it affect me? Another thing that I really, really like was the menu that you're talking about, that you can construct your own information menu. And there's even instruction how to do it. Okay, so you have to decide which type of information would you like to have. Do you want the information that confronts your worldview, or would you only like to focus on the one that only confirms your worldview? And that's something that I personally struggle with, because as you said in the book, it's much easier to only listen to people who agree with us, but I have to do the actual work to make sure that I also listen and read articles from people that I don't agree with. And even if they make me angry and agitated, I still do the effort to make sure that I don't stay in the bubble and I'm well informed. So yeah, there you also cover the topic of the metaverse and the topic of generative AI. It's very, very relevant. And I think everyone who is interested in media intelligence, of even, I think everyone consumes media nowadays. So as you said, this is a book for everyone, but especially for people who would like to systematize their knowledge about it, or would like to share it with someone who is not as educated in the topic.
Yeah.
That's my review of the book.
Thank you. Look, I think that it is for everybody, as you said, but also I consider there are some opportunities hidden in the book for our industry that we need to find the way to there is a challenge for us in some way. There are different levels, but I consider the main issue is critical thinking. Is how we stand with and grow and develop our critical thinking and take care on this all the time. Because if not, we will be manipulated and our future will be not our decisions will be not ours, will be just manipulated by the digital stimuli.
Yeah, I also think, because we have this topic that's keeps coming back when we record the podcast, that we as a media intelligence organization, we have this obligation to educate our clients, educate media consumers. And this is actually a great answer to that need, that this is something that we can, we do have a manual, which is an easily written, is an easy read. It's not such a big of a book. I think it's more than 100 pages, but yeah, it's like 200 pages. but this, it's very easily written. It's very easy to understand. It's also, I really like how it's structured. So you are coming from the beginning of information, how, for example, misinformation started and how it's affecting us now. So I think we should redistribute it through our FIBEP members and make sure that they all have access to it, and recommend it to our clients and any other media users that would like to keep informed.
Well, this is also a way to let people understand a little bit about what we do, because people normally says, "What do you do?" No one understands. Only people that is in the industry or in communication side, in the communication side. But citizens, normal citizens, they say, "What? What do you do? Who buy that? Who is your buyer?" So it's a way to involve them also in a problematic and in a challenge and in something that is also for them.
Yeah, I agree. Vlado, is there something that you would like to ask from your side?
No, I think it was a great interview. I learned a lot of things, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Laura, for meeting with us today.
Okay.
And I hope you will. I can wait for another one of your books.
Absolutely. Do contact us when you wrote the next book.
Okay.
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
You know what? There is a university who called me, and I am preparing the first certificate in information literacy that will start next April. For the beginning, will be in Spanish, but maybe we are negotiating to do it also in the States in English, and will be completely virtual.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, that's something that we really, really need, because this is also, again, the question that you ask in your book. Are you media literate? And people say yes, or like, are you digitally literate? And people say yes, but they don't really understand what that question implies. And they think, okay, I can use Zoom, I can answer emails, I can use Google, and that's it. But they don't really think, okay, what is the content that I'm seeing and why am I seeing it?
Yeah, and what's going on with your behavior?
Keep us updated on that. I think it will be very interesting to know.
I will definitely do. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for recording with us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.